control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded, watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere. Watching me. The little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. We the people have taken over. We the people are little brother, standing by to dethrone each other, watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon, desensitized in our lust for attention, democratized by our voyeur obsessions, watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection, don't let them project you as you are. Feel your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Let your experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Space Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and it's good to have you along for this great ride wherever you are on this planet we like to call Earth. Yes, we are live once again right here at Uncle Jimbo's cabin, right here in the Great White North on this Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning if you're on the East Coast. Let's welcome in everyone listening in on spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on Revolution Radio as we do this thing every night of the week, rocking in and out of every show thanks to our resident guitar god, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. Bumblefoot is the official sound of SOR. If you want to follow me on social media, you can do so on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Find us on TuneIn, download our shows from iTunes, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. Hey, if you want to take part in this show, you'll have to sign into one of the chat rooms, either on Revolution Radio, on Spreaker, on the UPRN chat room, or on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Group Club. Or if you're on Twitter, use the hashtag SpacedOutRadio, and I will get to your questions and comments in there as well. If you haven't gone to our website and signed up for the SOR Space Travelers Club yet, you still have time to get into the December draw this Friday as we give away a prize every month to one valued SOR member. It's $5 a month. With that, you get your name put into that prize draw. You get access to private group interviews, access to a special posting section on our website, and much more. While on our website, read up on my latest blog. Check out Eric Markham's SOR Spacewire for your latest and weird news. And if you've had an experience that you just can't explain, you want someone to look into it, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Researcher Mike Schmidt is ready to find out what's going on. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM live in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is the largest non-profit online radio station going for you. Take the time to visit freedomslips.com and donate today. One of the big debates in the field of cryptozoology is what exactly are Bigfoot and Dogman? Are they monsters hidden in the forest? Experiments gone wrong? Relatives of mammals and animals of the past? There are many different theories out there, and even though we have literally thousands of people across North America searching high and low for these two creatures, there's still very little evidence outside of footprints, the odd pile of scat hair samples. No bodies, no quality video or photographic footage, no creatures trapped even by the simplest of man's cages. Nothing. This has led to some theorists to believe there are maybe some supernatural beings between the two specimens. Tonight, Joedy Cook who has been studying the Bigfoot phenomena since '91 and is the author of several books. Well, he's founded the Cryptid Seekers, the Ohio Center for Bigfoot Studies, and the North American Dogman Project. He's also the founder of Cryptid Seekers magazine and is a member of the American Bigfoot Society. We're talking to Joedy tonight. We're going to find out what they are, to the attitude around the field of cryptids. We're going to get into all of it. Joedy will be with us the entire 3 hours tonight, and this one is going to be a lot of fun. We welcome in Joedy Cook now to Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us, Joedy. Thank you so much for wanting to be a guest on tonight's show.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you.
It really is our pleasure, my friend. And, you know,
Oh, yeah.
I like having someone like you on with us, and the reason why is because not only are you a researcher, you have the experience in the field, you have the experience about speaking publicly about this, you've done the radio tour, you've done the television tour, the documentary tour. Is there anything you haven't accomplished in this field of cryptozoology yet?
Oh, God. Well, you know, I got into the field because I love what I'm doing. Okay. And, you know, I never got into the field to make money in there or to, get on TV or anything like that. You know, that wasn't my whole goal on doing what I'm doing. I love doing the research. I love getting the information out there to people. And that's what I enjoy doing mostly about this. As far as not doing anything, I've seen a Bigfoot. I would really love to see the Dogman. That's the one thing I can probably answer your question with there. Definitely would like to see one.
What got you into this? What made you need to scratch this itch with trying to figure out what is going on in this world of crypto?
How it started out. I was a UFO investigator, and we had our own team that was, based out of Cincinnati. And this is, back in the 80s and stuff. And we had, at the time, we had public access TV, and that's how a lot of these shows got on. But we had a television show that we did a live show the first Wednesday of every month. And we would have, people come in and talk, and then you could call into the show and things. And we were just getting a lot of Bigfoot reports. With the UFO sightings and things like that, and just basic Bigfoot reports by itself. And the director of our team, said, this might be something, we want to look into. So who would want to take this and follow up on this stuff? So myself and George Clapperson, said, yeah, we'll go ahead and look into it. And, we just kind of like fell into it. It was really an obsession, it overwhelmed us, and we just fell in love with it. And I just kind of got out of the UFO stuff and just strictly did the Bigfoot stuff, and been doing it ever since. It's this, something that grabs you, and I totally enjoy it. I love going to the field, and I love talking to people, about it. I love shows like this and hear other people's experiences, and other people's stories and stuff, and see if there's connection there to different parts of the country and different parts of the world, with the different sightings that people are having. And that's kind of how I just kind of fell into it.
When you started looking into it, were you surprised, or did you expect there to be so many people who had sightings but just didn't know where to turn? I mean, because when you started this, there was no internet. The internet didn't come in until the mid to late 90s, and you were someone who was coming in right before that happened. So to gain information, it was all field work, man. That had to be tough.
It was, because, you went to the library and you read through other books, you watched whatever documentary was on TV, everything that you got either came from a witness or came from a story from someone else, or a family member or something like that. And it was just, field work back then was actually field work. Today, field work is sitting in front of a computer, and a lot of, there's a lot of researchers that are really good researchers, but a lot of them just don't really get out because, they're just getting so much information coming into their websites and, reports and things like that. They can just do everything they need to do over a phone. But, back in the old days, that's, you're lucky if you had one friend that actually had a car and you could travel around the country, and you had the time off or, things like that to do it. And that's how it was done. You traveled and, back in, like I said, the 80s and the 90s, we traveled a lot. We, went, to Canada, did a lot of investigation and stuff up there. And that's how you did it. Everything was by word of mouth, And like I said, today, like I said, you just sit in front of the computer and everything you need's right there.
That brings up a really important question, because in your 25 years of research, in your opinion, how has the game changed?
Oh God, I'm going to get myself in trouble here, and I don't mean to do this, but what my whole thing is, I'm 100%. I believe in legitimacy in the field, okay? And everybody who knows me will sit and tell you that. And the biggest thing, how the field has changed from when I first got into it, to now, everybody back in the old day was willing to work together, sharing information. Today it's just, this is my opinion, and, the field has turned out to be nothing more than, like a good old boys club, members only, collect things like that. They don't want to listen to, some of these researchers who are new in the field, listen to what they have to say, hear their stories, today, a lot of these, conventions that are going on and stuff. It's always the same people. It's the same people talking, and that's how it is. It's kind of like forming into where, it's the same group of people doing the same thing, and it's time to move on. It's time to let other people, because that's how we're going to find out about newer stuff. You got a guy that, maybe started a group up a year ago, and he may have some really good evidence to share, but he's not given the opportunity to share it because, people don't want to talk to him or listen to him because he doesn't have the right last name, or he doesn't belong to the right organization, or, something to that effect. And, the biggest problem I see is, television is one of the biggest problems too. I mean, Finding Bigfoot, it's a good show, but, people are thinking that's like the Bible of Bigfoot research, and it's not, and that's the biggest problem I see, in the field today. It just got to the point, man. It's just like, honestly, if you don't have the right last name, or, you don't belong to the right organization, you're not going to speak at conferences. You're not going to get your picture on a calendar. I mean, literally, and I hate to be funny about it, but that's the way it is. And I hear this a lot from other people, in social media, that, it's they go to a conference in Washington State, and then, they hear all these people there, and then they go to a conference here in Ohio or someplace, and it's the same people talking about the same stuff, and there's other researchers out there, that, like I said, are just not getting the opportunity, to share the information, they have.
You know what? I know exactly what you're talking about, because as this show goes into year number 3 here, and we're just over a month into year number 3, I've built up a little business team, and part of that business model that we want to do is to try and get into those conferences to be a speaker to help promote Spaced Out Radio a little bit. And I mean, it's amazing, like going into events in 2017 that are already fully booked right up, and these events are in August, September, October, and, you're right, looking into it, and I just looked into this yesterday, Joedy. They're all the same people at every single group, every single conference.
And there was a thing I was reading, the other day where someone was given the award of the best Bigfooter in the, in the field, and people were like, why this individual? What did he do? I mean, and I don't know the guy, so I can't, I can't judge him. But I mean, but this was the thing, and all these people are throwing, well, what about this guy? This guy, he did this, he did that, and it goes back to where I'm talking. It's just, he just happens to have the right name, in order to do it. I mean, and it's sad. I've been, like I said, doing this for 25 years. I've never did a Bigfoot convention, spoke at a Bigfoot convention. Never. Well, let me rephrase it. Yes, I did. I did one because one of the speakers canceled out, and I would just happen to be there at that convention, and they asked me to speak. But that was it. Every convention I have spoke at was a paranormal. Mm-hmm. They wanted, to hear something on, the Bigfoot side or the cryptid side. I've always been asked to do that, but I've never been asked to ever speak at a Bigfoot convention, or anything like that, because like I said, it's, it's the same thing with the same people, but a lot of these people, they're really good researchers. I mean, they really are. They're, but there's a few that, they're just there because, like I said, they belong to, a certain organization, or they just happen to have the right last name in order to do it, and things. But I mean, that's not what I'm here for. That's not, I mean, I didn't get into this to, like you said, to fame and fortune and things like that, because that's not the whole purpose of what I'm doing. It's not the whole purpose of what a lot of researchers are doing, but that's the only way to really get the information out is, either through social media or, talking at these, conventions and things. So, but it like I said, it got to the point where, like I said, to me, it's a click, and a lot of people feel that way. And, TV really doesn't help either, help with things. So,
well, let's talk a little bit about television here for a couple of minutes, because they should still change some of these names to Still Not Finding Bigfoot or something along those lines. Because I remember when it first came on, I literally watched 17 minutes of the first show, and I'm not trying to slag the gentlemen. I don't know them. I've never talked to them. Mm-hmm. But when I saw their techniques and this whole Squatch thing that they were doing, I thought, wow, wonder what proper researchers, like scientists, have been thinking about when they look at this. And I ended up in 2015 running into John Bindernagel, who is a Canadian mm-hmm. legend and a Bigfoot legend. And I remember asking him, because it was weird, like, here's this legend in the Bigfoot field, Joedy. When I arrived at this Paracon that some friends were putting on in Vancouver, John was speaking on the Bigfoot side, and I was nervous. And in my radio days, man, I interviewed Wayne Gretzky, Derek Jeter, and a lot of the big names in sports. But I was nervous for John Bindernagel, man. I don't know why, I just was. I guess I read his name in too many books. Anyways, I went up to him and I said, Mr. Bindernagel, my name is Dave Scott. I'm with Spaced Out Radio. He puts out his hand. He goes, Dave, I hear you have seen 2 Bigfoot. I need to hear this story right now. Do you have a few moments? Well, I was just jaw-dropped, right? Like, here is the Gretzky of Bigfooting asking me if I have time for him. I mean, like, come on. Who does that? Anyways, him and I talked, and I told him my story and everything. And then I asked him the question about the word Squatch. And when I mentioned that question, what he thought of it, you could see him almost deflate. Because here's a man who's been investigating Bigfoot for over 60 years. And to have his research all thrown in the garbage over one word, you could tell he was just beat up over that. And not so much the word, but the way the whole projection on television is coming across. Have you found that as well, being in this for 25 years?
Oh God, yeah. Let's look at Finding Bigfoot. Okay, first, how the show came about. it was denied by like the History Channel. I think Discovery turned it down. There was one other channel that turned them down. How Animal Planet got it was there was a guy that worked for Animal Planet that was actually a member of the BFRO. And that's how they got on, Animal Planet. So they had, somebody that was already, connected inside there in order to get there. And, I sit there and when I watch the show, I have a legal pad and I sit there and write all this stuff down as I'm watching the show, because it gets to a point there. I mean, a guy can sit there and say, give his story, and they'll sit there and think, oh, it's not believable. It's a lie. But some silicone blonde could sit there and mistake a squirrel going across the road for a Bigfoot, and they believe her, and they really, they're disrespectful to the people on the show because they really trash them. If they think they're lying or a liar, they'll call them out on TV, and you don't do that. And Finding Bigfoot is very big at doing that. And another thing is, they'll do something and they'll swear that they were the ones that did it first. Having a band in the field or, a rave. I mean, seriously, how many people go out and have a rave in the field just to call Bigfoot in? And then you got Bobo talking, Bigfoot likes bacon. I mean, seriously. I mean, the show's, it's entertaining, and you're right. What they should call it Not Finding Bigfoot. How they're putting it back on TV, it's beyond me because, like I said, it's entertainment. I have a lot of issues with it. I'm not an expert. I never claim to be an expert. They claim to be experts. I've been to conferences where, these guys from Finding Bigfoot are at the conferences, and they're nothing like they are on TV. I mean, they have crappy attitudes. And I found that out. At a couple conferences I've been to where these guys are at. And that's how the show came on. And the thing about television, it's entertainment. It's like, when I did Monster Quest, I was really upset with that show because they threw things in there that should not have been thrown in there for entertainment purposes. And, they wouldn't tell backstories. It's like, give you an example. I found a skull of a baboon, when I was doing research in Ohio. Well, they wanted to, how did a baboon get to, Ohio? Well, they didn't cut, they cut out the part where I told about it. In Ohio, we have a county called Adams County, which is very well known, documented by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources of, legal and illegal exotic animal trade coming through that county. So most likely it was somebody's pet that either got out, got too big, and they killed it, or whatever purpose. And there's also 2 primate research centers in Ohio that has baboons. And within 25 years of doing research, I probably have 7 reports of just from law enforcement, not civilian, but law enforcement, seeing a baboon-type primate going across the road or sitting on the side of the road eating roadkill, So that's the explanation why that skull's here. But Monster Quest declined to give that part out because they wanted the mystery. Well, it made me kind of look stupid in a way, because everybody with common sense knows that there's no baboons, in Ohio and things. So, but that's how television, kind of works. And that's why, Finding Bigfoot is doing so much better. And the other main reason why is that it's the subject matter. People want to watch it, even though it's stupid. It's the same thing like with shows like Mountain Monsters and things. It's the subject matter, not the characters, why people watch it. I spoke at the Mothman Festival back in September, and it was myself, Ken Gerhardt was there speaking, Lauren Coleman was there, and there was a couple other individuals that were there. And, Lauren Coleman made the comment, it's pretty sad that people are standing in line 6-7 hours to see the guys from Mountain Monsters overseeing legitimate researchers. And that's true. And that's what was going on. People were standing in line up to 6 hours to see the Mountain Monster guys when they wouldn't even take 5 minutes to talk to legitimate researchers, and stuff. I mean, so that's how television has really destroyed the field.
Yeah, that is incredible. And you look at, I have a comment here from John on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and I put out there, I said, what is your opinion, listeners, of the word Squatch, good or bad for true researchers? And I think he nailed it right on the head. He said, when you're the Jane Goodall of Bigfoots, you can name them whatever you want. Otherwise, stay professional. I think that is so true.
It is. Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No worries. Run with it.
It is that's true. They think that they're, the top Bigfoot guys in the field. I hate the word squatching. I really do. Every time someone says, squatch, it's a vegetable. That's what it is. It's, it's not a Bigfoot. I think it just really reeks me because, it's just a logo they came up with that they're making money off of, and, I mean, it's just, oh my God, it like you said, it just kills me. And every time I hear that, John Bendernagels, I mean, he's a wonderful guy. I mean, I met him a couple times, but the very first time I ever talked to him was that I get a call from him. Actually got a phone call. He got my phone number through Chris Murphy, who's really good friends with him, and he calls me and he says, can I use some of your stuff from my book? Some of the Ohio stuff, and I was blown away. Here I got this guy, who's one of the best, Bigfoot researchers out there at the time that I felt, because here he is, he's a scientist, but, this guy goes out to the field and gets dirty, and I respect that, and he's open to what researchers have to say, and he bases, his opinion and everything on what we, talk about or what we do, and he doesn't use his professional, education to make the people think that he's better than we are, and he's one of us, and I really respect that, and it just blew me away, that he asked to, use some of my stuff for his book that he did, and like I say, he's a good guy. I really respect him in the field. He's one of the. I have to say he's the only scientist I really respect in the field. Me personally, I don't think they belong in the field. This is my opinion, because I think that they hurt the field more than they actually help the field. John, he's different. He's an exception. Because you have all these zoologists and you have primatologists and stuff coming into the field that know any more about Bigfoot than the guy that started the group up last week. And that's true, because they heard the same stories that we have. They've seen the same documentaries we have. They read the same books that we have. They read the same posts on Facebook, that everybody else has. And they don't know any more, than the normal, researcher does. They're not an expert on it. They're just an expert in their field. But John's, like I said, John's a different type of person, because he actually, like I said, he actually gets out there and gets dirty, and he'll take regular researchers out with him, and stuff, and that's why that's why people respect him.
Joedy, let's get to the science part of this for a moment, because one of the big debates that we have had on this show the last few months, especially when it comes to the field of the paranormal and in cryptids and research in the cryptids, is how few scientists are out in the field, yet everybody seems to be doing this so-called scientific research.
Mm-hmm.
Does that bug you as a researcher, or is that something you're okay with?
The way I look at it is, every researcher has their own way of doing things, and if it's going to help them doing what they want to do and help them achieve their goal and what they're doing, I don't have a problem with it. The only thing is that just respect other people's opinion, on things. And that's the biggest thing in the field. We just don't respect each other's opinion. And like a lot of these guys, they go so scientific, and it really doesn't make sense, because the norm just doesn't understand what they're trying to say or what they're trying to do. I'm hoping that's, if we're on the same frequency here as far as what your question is. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I think it's good. I think it's good work, Joedy. And I guess I have a real hard time with people who haven't taken a science class since probably grade 9 or 10 saying they're conducting scientific research. In my opinion, in order to do an examination or to do a test, you need a hypothesis, you need a probability, you need a rendering of information. There's
right
step-by-step portfolio of what you have to do. And I'm sorry, but going out in the woods carrying a sidearm and setting up some cameras is not scientific to me.
No, it's not. And I apologize, because I kind of misunderstood what you were saying there. And it's, I agree with you. Setting up cameras in the field, it's not, that's just typical research and things. I don't know too many people in the field that actually do a scientific, look into this, unless it's somebody that's got some type of, higher educated, in the field, like maybe a zoologist or primatologist or someone like that, someone like John Benernagel or, Jeff Meldrum. But there's guys out there that think that's what they're doing, and things, and trying to look into this deep, theory of what Bigfoot might possibly be, or something to that effect. And you don't have to go through all that scientific stuff in order to to achieve what you want to do in the field. But like I said, it's just there's a lot of people talking about it, and I don't do it because I just you're opening yourself up for criticism when you start throwing all this scientific stuff in there, and if you don't have the background to back it up. And that's what's going on with a lot of these researchers today.
The other issue that I have with this, and I'm curious to get your opinion, is we have a lot of people out there who are researching, and I believe there's a lot of good people out there doing great work. Okay, but for the most of them, what they are claiming as science is their own opinion. For instance, I have talked to people on this show who will not at all look at anything to do with First Nations or American Indians legends and theories, whether it's shape-shifting, whether it's interdimensional. They absolutely will not investigate that. They think it's all malarkey, and they have a plethora of reasons not to go down that road. Well, how do you call your investigation scientific if you are eliminating something before you've even researched it? And I think that's what I have a big problem with.
Yeah, I agree with you there. In my case, from being a UFO researcher and being a Bigfoot researcher, me personally, and then, like I said, this is Joedy Cook's opinion, nobody else's. I don't think there's a connection. Okay, and I'm going to tell you why, and why I won't touch a Bigfoot report that has a UFO connection to it. I don't think Bigfoot is an alien. I don't think he's an alien's pet. I don't think he's a criminal from another planet that was thrown here. I think he's just a flesh and blood creature that has always been here. Now, if there's a connection with UFOs, maybe he was abducted or, used for a particular purpose like humans, and when people see them walking out of a spacecraft, maybe that's what they're seeing from after they were abducted, or like you said, used for a particular, reason. And that's my opinion. And that's, and how can I say this? And it irks a lot of people, but I just don't think there's a connection between ufology and Bigfootology. Now, as far as shape-shifting or interdimensional and things like that, yeah, I'll look at that because it's interesting. It's an interesting theory, because you have a lot of reports where, they just disappear. The tracks just stop in the middle of, nowhere. And you want to find the explanation for that. And I truly believe definitely looking into that, to those things. And like you said, there's a lot of narrow-minded researchers that claim to be scientific that, like you said, they won't touch those. And you have to look at the whole thing. And I have to go back to what I'm saying here. I do look at some, that has UFO connection because, the story's compelling. So I'll do it, but I just don't like doing it because I just don't want to get into where, there's a connection there, which I don't think there is. Maybe there is, and I need to see that, proof there to see that there is a connection. But yeah, you have to look at everything, regardless of how ridiculous it is. You have to look at it because, that may just be the answer.
But how close-minded is it of the field, Joedy, when we have researchers who are absolutely denying absolutely everything to do with any particular outside of a mammal or Gigantopithecus or Nephilim related or great ape related? I understand the whole Caucasian Christian scientific theory on this, but we cannot look or pass aside what other people are experiencing. For instance, I'll give you an experience of mine. 5 days after I had my encounter with 2 Bigfoot on a friend's property, they used to have a lot of spirits, or a lot of spirit activity, around their property. We were walking along the side of the house when 2 of the 4 of us felt we were being followed. We turned and looked, and in the back they had this old cherry tree. And there was pixelation. 2 of us could see it, but there was pixelation from the ground to about 8 to 10 feet up. And it was wide, it was big. It looks like when you pixelate someone's face on television to blur them out of the shot. Okay? We kept walking after we stared at this for a couple of minutes. We kept walking, and about 30 seconds after we viewed this, we heard the roar. And to me, that was a little bit too coincidental because I had talked to a lot of First Nations people and they had explained this whole shapeshifter thing, which at the time I really wasn't believing in. But now to get that pixelation and 30 seconds later hearing the roar, to me, there is some correlation between the two. But when we have people out there who are calling themselves scientists, investigators, who are absolutely taking experiences like that and throwing them in the garbage before they've even looked at it because it doesn't suit their own belief, we're shooting ourselves in the foot as researchers, are we not?
Oh, yeah, definitely, because, and it goes back to where, a lot of these researchers truly believe that this thing is just a flesh and blood, something that's always been here. They don't want to look at the Native American culture, the First Nation people, their their theory on what it could be, because see, here in the States, a lot of people, when they talk about Native American influence in, like with Bigfoot and things like that, they think, well, they had, when they looked at the sun, they knew it was a sun. When they saw an eagle, they knew it was an eagle. So when they saw Bigfoot, they looked at it as, either, some type of spirit, or, a god or whatever, they may think of it as, but not as a flesh and blood, type thing. And that's not true. They've looked at it as that, even though if they may thought, well, it is a shapeshifter, or it was, something that came back reincarnated or whatever. To them, it was still flesh and blood, and give you kind of an example here, and when settlers were going like further, west in the United States, they're picking up a lot of Native American cultures and myths and stories and things like that. So in one of the stories, and the Cherokee Nation, is they have this thing that's called the booger. And what the booger is, it's a male, or it could be a female creature, which is their version of what a Bigfoot is today. And it would do a dance with the children called the booger dance. And, if the children were bad and didn't pay attention to the parents, or didn't do their chores or whatever, the booger would come in the middle of the night and pick them up and put them in a basket and take them away. Well, we heard about all these legends and, stories and things like that. So it grows within our, our history, and that's why we have, the boogeyman. When you're a kid, you're told if you don't go to bed, the boogeyman's going to get you. Well, goes back to, the Cherokee booger and the booger dance. But even though, people, they still think, well, that's not real. That's just something that is just a story. But, to these people, it's the real thing. It's part of their culture. But researchers don't want to look at it, because they sit there and think, well, it's nothing more than just a myth or just a story, that's made up by, these people. So there's no scientific, backing to it. Well, yeah, there is, and things. I mean, these people, they don't make up creatures. They don't make up, stories. Every story that they come up with, has some facts to them. And researchers, they don't want to look at that. And, and I agree with you 100%. It really hurts the field, when, you have, these stories coming out of, the native culture, and things you have to sit there and listen to them, because there's facts to them.
I want to get to a question from one of our listeners in the Space Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. This is Sabretooth. He goes by. He says, I recently got into an argument with someone who is part of a pro-kill Bigfoot research group made up of a bunch of ex-military guys. Have you, Joedy, ever encountered people like that? And what is your opinion on people who think killing a Bigfoot is the only way to verify its existence?
I think I know who he's talking about. I don't agree with guns in the field. I really don't, and I don't agree with killing the Bigfoot just to prove the existence. I'm working on them, and this kind of goes back to answering this question. I've been working on this book for 8 years, and it basically deals with killing the Bigfoot or finding the remains of a Bigfoot. You can go kill one all you want, and it's not going to prove anything. Okay. And I'm going to tell you why. Science doesn't want to be proven wrong. Science is, it's supposed to be open-minded. They're supposed to be objective, but they're not. They're one way of thinking. It's their way, and that's it. if Bigfoot is ever found, a body or whatever, they're going to classify it as something other than what it is because they don't want to be proven wrong. You can't change, science, you can't change things, and that's basically what it comes down to. Now, if you want to go ahead and kill a Bigfoot, I'm sure somewhere hidden in like state and the federal government and stuff, there's laws protecting it, even though there's not out there visual for you to see it. I'm sure that there's laws somewhere hidden protecting that creature. And the other thing people need to understand too, that if you find a body or if you kill a body, kill one, you better make sure where it's done at, because every piece of land is either owned by the federal government, it's owned by the state, it's owned by the county, or it's owned by the city. Okay, you may have a farm that has 65 acres. Well, I'm gonna tell you something. Only thing you own is that house on that piece of property. That's it. That's why you have eminent domain. That's why the government can come in and take the property away from you for whatever purposes they want to do it. You pay property tax. So basically what you're doing, you're leasing that property. So, if you kill an animal like Bigfoot and, on state property or federal property, you're going to go to jail. I mean, they're going to prosecute you on that, and they probably will follow through on it. It's like you can't walk into a park and pull flowers out and walk out of that park. They can arrest you for that for stealing, state or, county property if they really wanted to, if they wanted to push the issue. And, these guys talk about, well, I want to kill it and I want to take the head, cut the head off, and that's my proof. Well, you know what? Go ahead, mutilate an animal corpse and see how far that's going to get you, because you'll probably go to jail a lot quicker mutilating an animal corpse, let alone something that's an endangered species, before you would a human body, and things. And people don't understand that, so if you want to prove the existence of it, don't kill it, just, photograph it if you can, or videotape it or something like that. Get some type of physical evidence, but don't kill it just to prove it exists. If you find one dead, don't mutilate the body. I mean, there's, I tell people, have a bio kit. And what the bio kit is just hypothetically, if you do run across and you find a body, you can sit there and take different parts, hair from different parts of the body, take fingernails off. If the blood's not congealed yet, try and draw blood, do a swab of the mouth, like you said, take blood samples, photograph the body from head to toe, take an ink pad, have an ink pad, with paper so you can, roll the ink on the hands and the bottom of the feet and, do an impression. So you got the dermal ridges, copies of that, and it, don't call law enforcement, because law enforcement's not going to know what to do with it. You call, the local, DNR in that area, the Department of Natural Resources, and you have them come and look at it. And then if you do that, what you need to do is have 2 or 3 guys hidden in the field with video cameras, videotaping you walking these people in and showing them the body, and that's the way to do it. But don't go out and kill it just to prove the existence, of this animal. The government knows that this thing exists, but the whole point of it is it's a money issue, and that's another subject. But don't prove it, and don't carry guns, because that's ridiculous. I think that's crazy for any researcher. I laugh at them on Facebook when they're standing there with their M16s and AK-47s, and things. I'm sure there are certain areas that they go into that has predators there, and you need to protect yourself. But for God's sakes, don't use it on an innocent animal like that, because he's not there to hurt you.
I have found that a lot of these people take out guns, because I know people who have had in their own reason, telepathic communication with Sasquatch. And whether or not people want to believe in that, that is their own opinion. The people who have told me this, I trust. And I know them personally. And one of the first things in their communication, no guns, always comes up. Or people who have taken guns into the field and have had no success compared to the times when they have not taken a weapon and all of a sudden there's action everywhere. Do you think that do you think that maybe Bigfoot has an aversion to gunpowder?
I don't know if I've heard that from other researchers talk about that. There's the scent of gunpowder or the scent of gunmetal, alerts them, and it very well could. I mean, I think it's a very good, ideal to even think that, but I think they know what a gun can do. That's the thing. I believe they know what it is and they know what it can be done. And they feel that, if they see a person with a gun, that's a bad person. The whole thing is, how many people have you ever heard that really had, where you have heard a story where someone was actually, severely attacked by a Bigfoot? I mean, aggressively attacked. I mean, you hear about it a lot in Native American cultures, for one reason or another. But and when it comes to the white man, the only time you ever heard of stories where they were severely attacked, it's because that human had a gun. You don't hear too many stories of them attacking humans who don't have guns, and if they do, it's because they probably were scared, and they felt threatened. But I mean, they're just not going to come boloing out of the woods and body slam you. You don't hear stories like that. But if you do, then you have to sit there and think about it. Why would this particular creature do this? Because you hear about Native American culture. That they're good-hearted. They consider them as people. They consider them as Indians. These are good-hearted people. They mean well. They protect the forest. Well, why would they do something like that? Well, think about the human species. We have people who are good. We have people who are bad. And we have people who just aren't right. And I'm sure you have that in that species. You have good ones, you have bad ones, and you have ones that are just not right. And that's where that goes into where people are being attacked, who didn't have guns. And like I said, that's just a theory of mine, that I came up with and I talked to other researchers about. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Maybe it is, the smell of gunpowder and just maybe the smell of gun oil or, the gunmetal. I think they know it's an item that's a threat.
We only have a couple minutes here before we have to go to our first break. Man, that's been a quick hour, Joedy. Very quick hour. Yeah. What do you subscribe to in the theory of you don't find them, they find you?
I totally agree with that because, I believe if you go out looking for them, you're not going to find them. If you, from what I came up with, my research, going through my reports, talking with other people, a lot of these sightings that people have are what I call like accidental sightings. They just by accident ran into them, or they, just, it's like a deer type thing, when you're walking in the woods and then, a deer kind of like runs right out in front of you or a rabbit runs right out in front of you. It's one of those things. They were there at the same time you happen to be there, and that's how the sighting came about. I don't really think that, they're going out looking for you to the point where they're going to let you know that they're looking for you. But you go looking for them. I've talked to people, plenty of times about this. These things can blend into the environment. And you sit there and wonder how many people have probably walked right past one and didn't even know it, and if they want you to know they're there, they're going to let you know they're there.
I guess the reason why I asked that, Joedy, and we got about 60 seconds here, is because we have so many people who just have those innate out of the corner of their eye sightings. By the time they turn their head, all they're seeing is the back or maybe an arm or hearing the rustling in a bush. Do you believe then that we're probably seeing a hell of a lot more than we're actually seeing with looking straight ahead?
Exactly. I do agree with that. It's like when I had my sighting, he was, 12, maybe 15 feet in front of us. And we didn't even see him until he moved, and if he would not have moved, we would have never seen him. I mean, he was that close to us. And there, like you said, there was myself and 3 other guys, that seen this. And like I said, if he would not have moved, we would never, ever have seen him. And I've done that where I've been in the field and I've seen, something, like an arm, or the full body right out from the side of, of my eye.
And on that note, we're going to hop out for our first break of the night. We are talking Bigfoot, Dogman, with researcher Joedy Cook tonight on Spaced Out Radio. 1 hour down, 2 hours to go. We'll be back right after this.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, news director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4COP. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report, and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Have you ever had an extraterrestrial experience? One you just couldn't explain? Well, maybe I can help. Hello, I am Samantha Mullet. On the second Tuesday of each month, I will join Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio to bring a human aspect to ET contact. It's something I've lived with my entire life, and I'd love to help you understand. Let's share our experiences. The ET Experience, the second Tuesday of each month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Reveal Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrr.wix.com/rivuletrr&r.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness. You can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium, Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Do you have a topic or a guest that you'd like to hear on Spaced Out Radio? Let us know at spacedoutradio.com, where you can sign up to become a Space Traveler member today. Or you can find us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio Show. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you along for the ride as we do this 7 days a week. Tomorrow night on the show, Wolfman Mike will join us. We're going to talk everything from paranormal to UFOs, experiences, for 3 hours at spacedoutradio.com. That is tomorrow night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on the United Public Radio Network, live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Do us a favor, visit freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for the SOR Space Travelers Club for the night: electrophotomicography. Electrophotomicography is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, space travelers. You're going to need it, especially if you need to use it in a sentence. If you want to follow me on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. And if you want to chat with us on Twitter, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio as well. You can also follow us on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn, download this show and others on iTunes, and our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including our music man, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal. You can read up on the SOR Spacewire, read my latest blog, and don't forget to sign up for the SOR Space Travelers Club. It's only $5 a month. Tonight we are talking Bigfoot and Dogman. Joedy Cook is with us. He is a 25-year veteran of searching for the elusive creatures around North America. Joedy, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to get to some questions from our audience right off the bat. Right before the break, you mentioned about the government knowing that Bigfoot exists.
Mm-hmm.
Gail would like to know, why do you believe this?
Back in the 90s, I heard a story about the FBI involvement in an incident where a Bigfoot was involved there. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write the FBI under the Freedom of Information Act and see what they have to say. And I ended up getting 22, 25 documents that were unclassified from the FBI. That was kind of basic nonsense stuff, memorandums, between other agents in the field that were kind of like blacked out. Some of them had some newspaper articles that were there. There was some stuff in there about Peter Burns that was in the files there, but nothing really that stood out. But the letterhead that they gave you, basically said, here, this is what you get. And then you get a couple of different pieces of paper with it, kind of tells you, your rights and all this stuff to FOI and things. And it states right on there that, you got this amount of documents that were unclassified, but there's still 2,000 plus that are considered classified documents. And I'm like, wow, okay, they have 2,000 classified documents on Bigfoot. Well, why did they have it, And so I wrote them back again and, asking about, these classified documents. And then the letter that I received back, kind of explained it a little bit, and it had like the guy's name and phone number and said, if you have any questions, give me a call. So I called the guy from the FBI, and, the FBI was pretty forthcoming about a lot of this stuff. And, they weren't, negative about it. They weren't, being difficult. I mean, they were very open. That I was very surprised about that. And, the special agent I was talking to, he told me, he said, listen, we don't go looking for Bigfoot. Okay. That's not what our job description is. He said, why we have classified documents is because of this reason. And he gave an example, say, you have a government property that's considered classified, and something happened, FBI agents are there, and they just happen to see one, because FBI agents are very well trained, and they document everything that they see, and they documented it. Or, there's an ongoing investigation, and one was seen, but the identification of the officers, has to say classified for their protection. That kind of stuff. So that's the way they were explaining it to me. So, you have all these different incidents that went on where FBI agents were involved, where a Bigfoot was involved, which makes interesting, because like you said, these guys are very highly trained and they document everything. So if they saw a Bigfoot, they're documenting it, put it in their paperwork that they seen one, or they had an encounter with one, on some type of government property, or, some type of investigation. So, that kind of proves that they know what's going on. But are they doing something about it? Probably not. It's just that, they put it in their report. Why do I think the government knows something about it? They would have to know something about it. There was an incident that happened back in, I want to say probably sometime in the 1960s, about 66, I think it was, 67. There was a young boy by the name of Dennis Lloyd Martin that came up missing in the Smoky Mountains. And how the story goes is there was another group that was camping there. He went and was playing with the two boys. The two boys came back. The father asked, well, where's my son? They said, well, he went into the woods and he never came back. Well, in that story, the FBI gets called out, to do an investigation because you have a missing child. Well, the FBI declined to tell the father that there was another group of people that were out in the field that said they seen a Bigfoot carrying a child. And they declined telling the father because they felt that, it wasn't, I'm trying to think of the right word. It just wasn't necessary at the time, to tell the father. So the boy has never been found. There's still a $5,000 reward today, by the FBI for this child. The military actually was out looking for this kid, and the FBI agent that was involved in this actually committed suicide. So it's kind of an odd story. And what I thought was kind of odd with like the paperwork that I've got, they're not called files, they're called serials. And you have like serial 1, serial 2, serial 3. And they sent me all the way up to serial number 10. But serial number 5 was missing. And it stated in the report that it was missing. And I asked, why was this serial missing? And they said, well, it was probably, came up missing in sterilization or something like that. And, so how can a file, an important file, just get sterilized? And what would be the reason why, it'd be sterilized? And my thing was, well, why wasn't this particular case not part of this file? Or is it part of the classified files? The story, because this is FBI involvement. And like I said, there's a lot more about this case that the FBI was really involved in with this creature. So, is the government, keeping this quiet for the protection of the people, or is they keeping it quiet for the protection of money? It's like, if Bigfoot comes, if we, say Bigfoot, is legitimate, he's real, we need to protect him. So, we have to protect his environment. His environment's a forest. Well, that stops logging. That's money that's going to be lost, and jobs that are going to be lost also, and that has, I think, has a lot to do with it, but I really believe that, the government knows, more than what they're saying, about this creature. There was a book that was written, and I wish I can remember the name of it. I read it, years and years ago, and it there was, I don't know if you ever remember the movie called like Iceman Cometh, where they found that
Yes.
caveman frozen.
Yes.
Well, the book was kind of based on that, where the government had this facility that was similar like that, where they had these Bigfoot in there, and that's how they were studying them. But the Bigfoot never knew that they were in like a facility like that. They thought they were still out, in the wilderness type thing. And it kind of made sense that, that's probably what the government's got. They probably, have one, similar to that, And I seen a document. This guy showed me that he wouldn't let me copy it or anything. And the document looked legitimate. He worked for the Army Corps of Engineers. He was retired. And he showed me this document where it didn't have any pictures. It was just, talking about when, if there was ever a nuclear war, could they get the majority of the population underground in these caverns, to survive? Could they make it like a city, in some of these caverns and stuff? And the Army Corps of Engineers, basically spent months underground going through these caverns and documenting these caverns. And in this one report, they talked about these large bodies that were found that were like buried in the sulfur, and the bodies were preserved. And, the description, they described as large ape-looking creatures, 8 to 10 feet, going up to 1,000 pounds, perfectly preserved bodies, and And this was a document that was considered classified from the department or from the Army Corps of Engineers. Was it real? I don't know. I took the guy's word for it. It looked real. I'm not an expert on, government documents or anything, but it looked legitimate to me. And, it kind of goes back. They probably do know this, but, why are they, keeping things from us? What's the purpose? And, going back being a UFO investigator, I sit there and wonder, everybody knows, we have common sense. We know we're not the only species out there. Everybody knows that there's ghosts, there's aliens and things like that. I mean, people really believe that. And, if the government, got on TV today and said, look, we have bodies. We've been, visited by, alien species and things like that. And so far, they're not threatening to do anything to us, but, we'll be able to protect it if it comes about that. Well, you know what? You're going to go to work the next morning. You got something to talk about. You're still going to have breakfast with your family. You're still going to get your kids off to school. You got something to talk about at work. You're still going to go out to dinner with your friends and your family. You're still going to take your kid to soccer practice. I mean, life's not going to change. People are not going to go. I don't think people are just going to go in chaos in the streets like the government think we will. Because I think people back in their mind, they really know that these things are really out there. And it's just going to be like, pressure off them because, okay, the government told us. My thing, I think what the people will be worried about, not the fact that there's another alien species or these creatures are out there, is that the fact that the government lied to us about it, and when they tell us they can protect us, they're not going to believe that. Because, for one, you lied to us about them being there, so what makes you think, we're going to believe you that you're going to protect us? Or they're not a threat. And that's what it comes down to. I didn't mean to run off like
no,
that.
No, I think that's great because here's the thing what a lot of people believe. They believe that the Smithsonian has bodies. They believe that there are cover-ups. I know there's a cover-up going on up here in British Columbia. I just had that confirmed a few weeks ago by our researcher Mike Schmidt, who ran into a conservation officer out in the field who was asking him what he was doing. He says, I'm looking for Bigfoot tracks. Mike expected him to be the conservation officer to laugh at him. But 30 minutes later, the conservation officer said, I'm not allowed to talk about this. My job is on the line. But I have seen some strange things happen out in these forests that I cannot go into detail about. And when you have that happening, all of a sudden it makes you wonder, what is the purpose of covering up this creature if the government knows about it? I understand the money part, but is there more to it than just the money?
I don't think, I don't think this thing is, Bigfoot, okay, is a threat to our society. Extraterrestrials is a threat to our society, I believe, okay? Dogman, I think, is a threat to human life, okay? And, but when it comes to Bigfoot, the thing of it is, okay, the best way to explain this, the human species cannot coexist with other species, let alone another human species. Okay, that's the thing. I think that's the biggest thing. It's just we can't coexist. We kill it. If we don't understand it, we kill it. And that's how it is. If we fear it, we kill it. We see a spider, we fear it, we kill it. We see a snake, we fear it, we kill it. If you're out, and you're threatened by another human being, you kill them, because you felt scared. And that's how we to do, and maybe it's a religious thing, which I really don't think it's a religious thing because, my God, the Vatican has one of the largest, observatories there is, and they're out looking for extraterrestrial life. So religion shouldn't have nothing to do with it. In some cases it probably does, where they see this thing as maybe as a demon, or something like that. It's just, to me, it just goes back to where, the government, regardless if it's the American government or the Canadian government, the UN or whatever, they think that they know what's best for us, and they're wrong, and it's crazy, but I think that that's one of the best answers I could probably come up with,
Let's move on to another question here. This one comes from Bob in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Have you ever heard any stories of Bigfoot saving people from harm?
I've heard stories, and this is how. Give you an example. This comes from an FBI story that I was told by a law enforcement officer, that this happened actually down in Tennessee also, and this actually made national news. Okay, and the story got, how can I say it? It got buried when this part of the story came out. There was a little boy about 6 years old that walked out of the house, and I can't remember what the reason why he did, but it was the middle of winter, and he just had, a pair of pants and a T-shirt on, and he ended up getting lost away from home. Okay, and the kid was missing for like 4 days, and they found him, and he was okay. This child should have died, being out in the cold like he was, wearing what he was wearing. But the child said, the big monkey kept him warm. The big monkey fed him. And what's the big monkey? It has to be Bigfoot. Is what protected this child. And the story got buried as soon as that came out. I remember watching that on TV. And I remember the kids saying that on TV, and the story got buried, immediately afterwards. So yeah, there is stories like that where Bigfoot has helped people, and I believe that there's a lot of them out there we just haven't heard yet. I truly believe that, that he is not, a bad entity. I think he's good-hearted. I don't think that, he wants to hurt people. He just I hate to say it like this, kind of sounding kooky, but he just wants to be understood, and I think that, you got these crazy people out there that see him and they want to, make a trophy out of him, and things. But yeah, there's stories, but that was the best one I ever heard, was that particular one right there.
I agree with you on the Bigfoot, and Edie Kaito, who is listening in on the SOR Space Travelers Club, she's been on this show a couple of times. I believe Edie from Indiana.
Yep.
And
yep.
She has some amazing evidence, and she would confirm everything that you just said, that they're a creature that quietly wants to be understood. Quietly.
Yeah. I mean, she's doing some really good research out there in Indiana. I actually had the pleasure of meeting her and her team and stuff. They're a great group of people, and some of the stuff that she's doing, is making sense. But there again, it goes back to what we're talking about, that you have a lot of these other researchers out there just don't want anyone to look at that because for one reason or the next, because they think that their whole idea of banging a stick up against a tree is the best way to go.
Exactly.
And yeah, and it's crazy.
Continuing our audience questions here, Ron is asking, just about every species has rogue individuals. How come Bigfoot has never had one of those crazy streaks?
How can I when he says rogue, and stuff, that's where I go back where I was saying, you have good people and bad people, and you have some that just aren't right, and, I believe that there is some that gone rogue. I mean, because you do hear stories of them just literally, harassing people, harassing, families and things like that. I think there was one up there in Canada that I can't remember. It probably was in the 40s or 50s where the one was harassing a family at their home, and the family ended up leaving, for whatever purpose that was. But I honestly, I really haven't heard a whole lot of stories, of them actually going rogue or anything like that. And I think what you might want to sit there and look at too, okay, as a species, Bigfoot, here in the United States and Canada, they're different. Their eastern Bigfoot is here in the United States, that's east of the Rockies, is aggressive. You have your Bigfoot out in Pacific Northwest is more docile. You have the ones up in Canada, they're a lot bigger. And that I think that, as a species, it's a species, but I think they're different breeds of the species. We have the dogs, the canine species, and you have different breeds of the species. And I think that, like Bigfoot, we have different breeds, and different breeds are probably more aggressive than others. Like the Yowie is probably, it's a lot different from the American Bigfoot. So that's a different, breed of a Bigfoot. And you have, the Alma, the Amiska in Russia, the Chinese wild man, even there's one in Africa they call X. That's it's the same creature, but it's a different breed of the creature. And, the Yeti, the Yeti's completely different. That's probably more of an ape. That's probably a Gigantopithecus, if anything, so each breed, I think, might be more rogue than the other one, or, different parts of the country, because you hear more about like the Falk monster, and the skunk ape being more aggressive, than like the North American Bigfoot, or the Canadian Bigfoot. And I hope that answers his question on
Well, he's from Saskatchewan. He's from Saskatchewan, so we have to give him a hard time. Yeah, and when you're from Saskatchewan, I mean, you can see north, south, east, west, all from standing in one direction. So it's all good.
Oh yeah,
it's all good. We like to give Ron a hard time for that, so it's all good. Let's get to Eric's question in the Space Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. He is asking, Joedy, what is your opinion about Dr. Melba Ketchum's Bigfoot DNA test that came back as an unknown humanoid?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I didn't follow it, and I'm going to tell you why. She's, how can I say this? And I really don't like talking about people unless they're there. I just don't. I don't know much about it. I don't agree. Because here she is, she's a scientist, and she's into the field, okay? And she's involved with the Erickson Project, and I have a lot of issues. I mean, I have a lot of issues with the Erickson Project, with some of their findings. I think that they pulled the wool over John Bittner-Nagel's eyes. I think the Matilda video, that's a Wookiee costume. I'm sorry, it's a Wookiee costume. If it looks like a Wookiee, it's a Wookiee. And I just, I don't know much about her DNA, the stuff that she's found. I mean, I've read some of the stuff that came back as human, and not what it came back to be, but I never followed it since. But, the thing of it is, heck, I had a hair sample, that when we did the show Sightings, it still had flesh on it that went to Ohio State University, and Dr. Fehrenbach was the one, he still has it. It came back of an unknown species of primate. No one said nothing. No one said anything about that. We got that off of a barbed wire fence, where it got stuck, and a Quaker minister was the one that saw it. It was watching them plow the field, and when the tractor got close, it went over the fence and got caught. and and he actually called into the show. When we did our UFO Update live show and talked about it, and we went there and he showed us where it was, and we took the flesh and the hair and stuff off of the fence. Gave it the sightings. Sightings gave it, Dr. Fehrenbach. Sent it to Ohio State University. When they did their back in the 80s, when they did all their Bigfoot DNA, it came back of an unknown species. Primate. No one said anything. No one cared. And now, she's talking about stuff coming up, with unknown species of, primate, and everybody's going hog wild. Yeah, I mean but it's just I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Much about it. I haven't followed it.
Lori is asking on our Space Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. She lives in Ohio, and there's a lot of old closed down coal mines there. Do you believe Bigfoot might live in those abandoned mines? I've heard, like in the Sandusky area, where there were a lot of the mines and stuff up there, where people have had sightings of them coming out of the mines and seeing them, around the mine areas. I do believe it. It's a great possibility. And like I said, up in the Akron, Sandusky area, the northern part of Ohio, there's a lot of those old mines and stuff that's up there. And like I said, we've got numerous amount of reports of them. So I believe so. I won't go in them, because my luck, I'd go in it and the thing would collapse. I'm stuck in there, but I can see it happening, and I definitely believe that. Let's get to Twitter here. We have a couple questions at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. This one coming from Quantes. He is asking, what is your opinion on Dr. Crow's melon heads experiment? True or false?
That when I did that show for Mysteries and Monsters, here in Ohio, the Kirkland melon heads, the whole story, goes back years. I mean, I been to his gravesite, and stuff, took pictures of it and things like that. And the whole story is a story. There is proof that, there was an orphanage. He was the doctor in the orphanage. I've heard stories that, he worked for the government and he was doing the experiments for the government. He was doing the experiments for, a foreign government. He was doing the experiments on these children just because he was just a bad person, but in reality, I have not found any physical evidence that it actually took place other than stories from the people in the community that heard the stories, and that there's people that were actually in the orphanage that said, yes, this actually took place and things. But there again, word of mouth, that's what it is word of mouth. There's no documentation of anything ever taking place. Me personally, I think he did, from what a lot of people are, talking about, him as a person, he was a very bad person. People who actually knew him, and there is documentation of that he was a bad person. So, I do think, it did happen. Most stories, legends, folklore always has some type of truth to it. And I do believe that it actually took place, but I've never seen any physical documents or anything like that showing that it did or it didn't.
Next question from hashtag Spaced Out Radio. This one comes from God of Thunder, Joe. He is asking, Joe, do you consider Bigfoot to be more of an animal or closer to a human?
I thought about this for a long, long time. I believe he's more human. Okay, and I'll tell you why. When I had my sighting, like I said, he was 12, maybe 15 feet in front of us, and the face, I mean, I looked into his eyes and I saw his face. This was a daytime sighting. Okay. His face was human. I mean, it was human. You know, the facial features. I mean, his eyes were like a blackish red color. I didn't see any white. The nose was flat. He did have a massive jaw. He did have a satchel crust on his head, but his face was human. You know, his body was human. You know, very muscular. You know, long arms, long fingers, long legs. But he was cut. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. He was cut. I mean, he had, you know, a washboard stomach. I mean, he was cut. And, but he was very human looking in the face. And I don't remember a smell, you know, and when I looked in his eyes, you know, I tell people, you know, it was like you saw the intelligence, you know, you saw the wisdom by looking in his eyes. You know, I wasn't scared. I didn't feel scared, you know, when I looked at him, but I truly believe he's more human than he is an ape. You know, if you look at like the Patterson film, you know, you can see the human characteristics in there, which is the buttocks. You know, that's a human characteristic. You know, apes don't have butts. You know, they don't have the muscles in their back. You know, and you know, the butt muscle is what supports your body to stand erect. You know, that's why apes and gorillas don't have that. That's why they're quadrupeds. They're, you know, walking on their knuckles and stuff. You know, so that's a human trait. The breasts, you know, that is a human trait. The foot is a human trait. The rest of the body, you know, being more ape, you know, with the hair and things like that, satchel crest, you know, those are the ape traits. But if you know, talk to people that actually, you know, seen Bigfoot, they'll tell you, you know, there's a lot more human traits to it than they are ape traits. And, you know, the DNA, I think what, you know, to get back to Dr. Ketchum, you know, is that, you know, probably one of the reasons why it came up human the first time is because he's probably has a lot of human DNA in him, you know, and things. So, yeah, I strongly believe that he's, you know, it is definitely more human than ape.
Let's move on here. Another question from God of Thunder Joe on hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Do you believe Bigfoot could possibly be carnivorous towards humans?
You know, eat a human. When I was in Canada, when I was in British Columbia, the First Nation tribe up there, I can't actually think the name of the actual tribe, and I don't want to pronounce it because I don't want to disrespect them by not saying it correctly, but they told us, you know, that he's cannibal. You know, he'll eat you. Don't go looking for him. You know, people who go looking for him don't come back. You know, and even in you know, Native American culture, you know, they talk about him being cannibal. You know, I think that again, there's certain species or certain breeds of the species probably is cannibal. I don't think the whole species itself is, but I think that there's some breeds that probably are, that will eat, you know, human flesh. But I don't think as a whole, as a species, no, I don't think so.
Joe is asking in the SOR Space Travelers Club, if children are disappearing and people see a Bigfoot carrying a child, wouldn't that be a good reason to carry a gun into the woods?
Well, you know, here's my thing, and this is why I believe that, you know, you can have a gun, but I think it would be on you before you ever had a chance to use it. You know, it goes back to where, you know, I think that they can blend into the environment so well, you're not going to see them, you know, until you're right up on them. And most of the time, you know, I you know, spent 18 years in the Army. You know, I've been in combat. I've been in Iraq. And I can tell you when you're scared, your mind's not working. I mean, you know, it takes a little bit for your mind to kick right in to a mission, complete your mission. Because, when when you're scared, you freeze up, and, and then you get back into it. By the time you able to, click back in there, he's up on you, but, like I said, I carry a knife when I'm out in the field. I've never carried a gun. I've been chased up, a tree by, boars before. I came across a bear, and things, but, I just don't like guns, to the point where, safety's first. And that's one thing people in the Bigfoot field has to understand. Safety comes before research, and if you have a weapon, you get scared, you might end up hitting somebody else, or, and trust me, I've seen guys just literally shoot in the middle of the woods at night, because they heard something, and it could be somebody else out there, and, you don't want to do that. So I don't know. I just figured if he's going to be up on you, he's going to be up on you before you even get a chance, That's my opinion.
Let's get to another question here, and this one from Gail. Joedy, have you ever investigated the Dyatlov Pass incident and possibility of a Yeti being the killer?
You know what? That's an old UFO story. Okay, I even heard about that when I was doing UFO research. How the Yeti came into that whole situation is when Discovery Channel put it in there. Okay? And that's the God's honest truth. The Yeti has never, ever been mentioned prior to that show that was put on by the Discovery Channel. Okay? I've never heard that. I've talked to people who've been in the UFO field for years, who've been with MUFON, and we've talked about this. Yeti has never, ever been mentioned until that show came about. And it's that one last photograph that they sit there and talk about, if you look at the negative and you look at the still, if you Google that image, you can tell it's a human. You can tell, the different, lighting and shading of the pants to the shirt that he's wearing, or the sweater. It's human. That's a human standing there. Because it's not all one shade. If it was a Yeti, you can see the difference in the shadow and lighting between the pants and the top of the head and the hands. That's in that picture, and things. But I truly believe that was a UFO incident, and Yeti had nothing to do with it whatsoever. And like you said, Discovery Channel was the one that was on that Monster Week kick where they sit there and made up all the stuff for the Megalodon, and they the Cannibals in the Jungle, and then they did the UFO or the Yeti one. That's all made up stuff. That's my opinion. That's my research that I've done on this, where I've never seen anything that a Yeti dealt with that. Like I said, I talked to people in MUFON and other UFO researchers that will sit there and tell you Yeti had nothing to do with that until that show came out.
Gail's follow-up question is, Joedy, with your sighting, did Bigfoot register any emotion on its face?
No, and that's the thing. I didn't even smell anything, and the windows were down in the vehicle because we were in the vehicle. We went off-road to get from point A to point B, and the wood line was getting very heavy. And then when we backed the vehicle up to go back uphill, that's when he moved. He didn't make any emotions. He just looked at us, and when he like, if you're looking straight, he was on our left, moving to our right, and he just went like just a very smooth move, like he was gliding is the best way to describe it. No emotions, no nothing, very calm, just looking right at us as he was walking on. And like no fear whatsoever, of us, because at first we thought, we hit a tree, and it was a tree that was moving, when he started to move. And like I said, if he would not have moved, we would have never seen him. I mean, he was standing there, standing right next to a tree. He wasn't behind it, or anything. He was right there, right next to the tree. And we did not see him.
I know with my incident where I had the two that we saw, the first one was doing the playing the peering game from behind a dark shadow of a tree. So that was kind of fun. And then he was at about 100 feet. And then as we were turn around to go back down the trail, what caught my eye on the second one was a tree branch shaking. And now looking back on it, I think there may have been a third one because something had to be shaking that branch. But that's where I saw the second one walk right through where that tree branch was shaking. It is amazing how big these creatures are. And it's unbelievable. It's beautiful, Joedy. It's a beautiful creature, and I can still picture it in my head.
Like the one I saw. I mean, he was. I mean, I was just in awe. I mean, I can describe the body, to a T. I mean, he didn't have hair on his chest and his stomach area. He didn't have it, real heavy on his shoulders and the back of his head, and his head. And I tell people, if you ever seen a dog with mange, that's what it looked like. I mean, he was that close, you were able to see like the flaking of the skin, and that's the only way I can describe it. He was a male. He seemed that he was older. He was not some, younger Bigfoot. He was, an older Bigfoot. But he was just beautiful. I mean, and I mean, this is body. I mean, I was just amazed with his body as far as how he was created. I mean, it's like the Neanderthal. You think about the Neanderthal, in the Cro-Magnon man, where, the bodies were cut because that's how he was formed. He was muscular, because he was a hunter, and that, because of the environment and things like that. And that's how it is with him. There was another sighting I was told about, which I thought, I kind of think this is a funny sighting. And there was a hunter in Scioto County that's seen this, and he described the same thing. This was a very muscular creature, very human looking, body was very human, but he was coming around, the wood line, and he sees this tree, and this branch is coming down this tree, and this Bigfoot's hiding behind this branch. But the lower body's showing. But he's thinking that he's hiding because of this branch is covering his head up. And
that is hilarious.
And and it's like, when the thing he was thinking about was that, he said that his body color was very much color to the tree, and he said if it wasn't for him moving his arm, he probably would not have noticed it. And he said his arm was up by his head, and he moves his arm down to the side of his body, and that's when he noticed it. But it was kind of funny where he said this thing, I'm looking at it, I'm seeing his eyes through the tree branches, and he's thinking that he's hiding behind this branch that's hanging down, But there again, he described it, the body, very muscular, very human looking and things. So,
Get to another question here. This one comes from Joe. Wasn't there a message in the dead hiker's notes at Dyatlov Pass that said the snowman exists?
There's a story. Like I said, I haven't seen this, I know it was talked about on that show. I've asked other, UFO researchers about this, that there was a note in one of the logs that where they seen the Yeti, the bottom, the Russian, snowman, and it was documented in there that they seen it. But from what I am learning from other ufologists is that that's just what it was. It was just a sighting that they documented. But, like you said, there's a lot of ufologists that will argue with you that that particular case, because when they look at other cases of human mutilations dealing with, UFO connection, they're very similar to the mutilations, are basically the same. And I think Boris, what's that Russian researcher's name? I can't. He wrote Year of the Russian Snowman, I think was the name of his book. And I think he'll even tell you that Yeti, had nothing to do with that particular case. And he's a Russian Bigfoot researcher. I talked to him, and he was at the Ohio Bigfoot Conference speaking one year, and we sat and talked about it. He just said, no, that's UFO incident.
Makes sense.
But, yeah.
Trip is asking, what about the Yeti hand and scalp that are said to be in a Buddhist temple, I believe near Nepal or someplace along those lines?
Mm-hmm. When Mutual Omaha back in the 70s went, Mutual Omaha did a show called Animal Kingdom that was on TV back in the 70s and stuff, and they went and they went to look at it, and they did test on it, and it came back as a mountain goat. Well, their whole thing of it is they didn't believe in it, and they went there to debunk it. That was the whole purpose of them, going to doing that. So, Peter Burns will tell you that, how he took the finger off and, put a, fake finger bone on there to say they can have the one finger to, test. And then the finger that they looked at happened to be the human finger bone that Peter Burns and them put on there and things. So, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if that is the real thing or if that's just something that they just put for show and they have something else hidden. I remember reading, there was this, I can't remember the guy's name for the life of me, but he lived in China, American lived in China, and he interviewed some Chinese soldiers that were there in Nepal when, China invaded. And, they talked about how these Yetis were living in the temples, with the monks, and how they would, set food out so they can see what they look like. And, the Yetis would come and get the food. And they even talked about how they killed them, where they were killing them inside the temples, and I remember reading a story in a magazine, and I just thought it was remarkable that, they would take something like the hand and things and try to cover up the truth by making up another truth. With the story and things. But I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm hoping that it is the real thing, and that that it definitely is. I think it should be further looked into. I can tell you that. I do believe that. But if it's real or not, I'm hoping that it is.
We got time. We got about a minute and a half here. I'm going to sneak in this question. What do you think of gifting sites? This comes from God of Thunder, Joe at hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
Oh, I think it's a good idea. I really do. I know other researchers that do it, and things, and they get little things returned. And I'll tell you, when we get time, when we come back, I want to tell you a story about gifting. When it comes to the Bigfoot and stuff, it's a really good story. An investigation that I did, and I think that people would really like to hear this one. But yeah, it kind of goes back to that. I'm 100% for that.
Me too. And do you believe that they are good for communication or building trust with a group?
Oh yeah. I really believe that. And like I said, I know researchers that are getting some really good feedback, is the best way to, I guess, put it, on the stuff that they're doing. It's not like, the finding Bigfoot pancake video. I don't know if y'all saw that one or not, where someone was putting stacks of pancakes out and this Bigfoot was coming up, and there was this video of something eating all these pancakes they left out, for Bigfoot. And, Finding Bigfoot thinks that this is 100% legitimate, but you can't really see nothing, in the video. But yeah, I think it's a really good idea. Because like I said, I've talked to researchers that have gotten some really good feedback that has not been released yet or anything like that, but they've got some decent stuff.
And on that note, we are going to hop out for a break here on the Mighty SOR. 2 hours down, 1 hour to go with Joedy Cook. We're going to introduce Dogman in hour number 3 right after this. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. We'll be back after this break.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines, your answers are a click away.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where 2 members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road, right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with the UFOR On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you checked out the SOR Spacewire at spacedoutradio.com yet? Every day we post the latest stories regarding the weird, strange, and completely unbelievable. From cryptid and UFO sightings to the conspiracy world, we tackle it all. Hi there, I'm Eric Markham, Space Out Radio's news director for the SOR Space Wire. And if you have a story, I want to hear it. Email me at news@spaceoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Every month on Spaced Out Radio, we look into the deep and dark reports of cryptids roaming around the world with me, Rob Morphy, from Cryptopia.us. I would love it if you would join me and host Dave Scott as we delve into the most arcane stories and reports regarding creatures of the unknown. My job is to hunt down the details and bring the evidence forward to you. These aren't your regular Bigfoot stories I'm talking about either. You can find out more about crypto history at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with us on Spaced Out Radio? Head to spacedoutradio.com to check out the latest shows, guests, and sponsors. And don't forget to sign up for the Space Travelers Club. You'll find all you need at spacedoutradio.com. Final hour of Space Out Radio is underway. Tomorrow night on the show, Wolfman Mike will be joining us. It's going to be an interesting topic indeed as we get into UFOs, missing time, paranormal ghost stories, and so much more. Maybe we'll even throw in a little paranormal media as well. 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. And I hope you all can tune on in. Hey, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. And if you're on Twitter, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio so that way we can get to your questions and comments in real time. Follow us on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott spacedoutradio.sor. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. And our website, with a plethora of information for you, is spacedoutradio.com. Remember, you only have a few days away to sign up for the SOR Space Travelers Club. And, of course, with that, you can get your name into the monthly prize draw. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on Revolution Radio. Yes, the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Do us a favor. Visit freedomslips.com and donate today. And to all those listening in on the United Public Radio Network, live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world, it's good to have you along for the ride as well. Bill Cardwell has the password set for the night on the SOR Space Travelers Club. Electrophotomicography. Electrophotomicography is your password. Make sure you use it wisely tonight, and tonight only. Joedy Cook is our guest. He's a Bigfoot and Dogman researcher in the United States. He's written plenty of books. You can find them on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And, of course, check out his work on YouTube, wherever you can find him. This man is extremely knowledgeable. He's a U.S. Army veteran, so we thank him for that. Joedy, thank you for coming back on.
Thank you.
I want to start focusing a little bit more on Dogman here in hour number 3, because this is the new fad of the forest. But I want to get to a quick question here from Edie Kaito. And she is asking, do you believe, Joedy, Bigfoot and Dogman are enemies, or do you think that they are sharing the same forest peacefully?
You know, I thought about this, and, and I talked to other researchers in the field, and I think they're sharing the forest. I'm sure that they encountered each other, before. I've never heard of an incident of two of them fighting, but I have talked to one researcher that stated that, and he goes out with a trail cam, or pro cam rather, and he's picked up some really good images. And one particular setting he was in, as he is going like down the road, he has a really good image of a Bigfoot, which is very, very good. And that's with like the front camera, and the back camera catches what looks to be like a Dogman in the same particular area where the Bigfoot is, as he's passing. They're pretty good pictures, so it seems to be that they're both in the same general area, close to each other. Maybe there's a mutual respect there. I wouldn't want to put my money on either one in a fight, because it's really hard to say. And I think if worse comes to worse, I think a Bigfoot would, because I think he's probably encountered bears, grizzly bears, and fought them. And so I would definitely put my money on that. But I really think that, they probably have some type of mutual respect with one another, because they're both, I don't want to use the word predator or anything like that, but it's they're the boss of the woods, I guess, is the best way to say it. So, I think they pretty well keep to themselves. But I'm sure they had to encounter each other and over, land or, food or water or something like that.
I guess the big question was, it wasn't until Linda Godfrey, who is a very good friend of this show and of ours, until she wrote the story about the Beast of Bray Road in Wisconsin, nobody was really talking about Dogman. And it seems like, especially in my only 2 years experience in this field, that Dogman has really taken over from Bigfoot. Why do you think that is?
Well, he's the new cryptid. I mean, he's a new top cryptid and things. And the stories about Dogman are just so fascinating. And the thing of it is that this is a real creature of nightmare. Okay, this is something that's in your nightmares. everybody grew up watching shows on werewolves and things like that. And this is an apex predator. This is something people are scared of because it will kill you. You don't hear things too much about Bigfoot killing people other than, these stupid sci-fi shows that they show, where Bigfoot are out, out killing people and eating them and stuff like that and things. But this is something real. The encounters that people are having with these things, they're not pleasant. There's a lot of really, dark stories and, brutal stories when it comes to this particular, cryptid, and things. And the people are just they're fascinated with it. And, I've been doing the Dogman stuff. I'm really hard within the last, 3-4 years, but I've been doing it a little bit longer than that because what I was doing, I was going through all my Bigfoot reports and seeing that some of these reports I was getting back in the 80s and the 90s where they talked about these Bigfoot having a snout or having high ears or the legs were kind of different, and things. And it's like, these people are probably seeing a Dogman, not a Bigfoot, because, a lot of these Dogman stories that, there's a lot of stories going back to the 1800s. I mean, I've got newspaper articles going back that far where they talk about a, dog-headed, bare-bodied creature, in some of these newspaper articles. They can go on my website and they can, read some of these newspaper articles that are on there. And so they've always been there, but it just really hasn't came to light until, like you said, Linda Goffrey wrote The Beast of Bray Road. The Michigan Dogman, like if you're in Michigan, I mean, it's an everyday thing up there. People knew about this going back, years. And even here in Ohio, there's a creature that's called the Germantown werewolf. And prior to the name Germantown werewolf, it was called the Butter Street Monster. And this goes back, 50 years. So, people always knew about these, but in a lot of these communities, it's like the family little secret. It stays within these communities and it really doesn't go outside of the communities, unless somebody who from the outside comes in and sees it or hears about the story. Because these communities, it's their stories. They deal with it, and they don't want no one else to come in and create havoc over it. But now it's getting to the point where it's getting, you can't just cover it up. It's getting out there more and more. And the TV thing, when it comes back, it's for some reason it's taboo. It really is. That the subject is completely taboo. Why hasn't a show been picked up on this subject already? Now, if you take like the show Paranormal Witness, their highest rating show was The Cabin and The Wolf Pack. And those were the two shows dealing with, the Dogmen. The same thing with Mysteries and Monsters in America. Their highest rating show was the one they did with on the Beast of Bray Road and the Michigan Dogman and the Wendigo, because people, they love it. They love that, they love to be scared and they want to be scared. But why hasn't it been picked up is beyond me.
Uh-huh. I can answer that. I can answer that question because I actually got contacted to see if I would be involved one way or another with a Canadian show about Dogman. However, they wanted to use the term werewolf.
Right.
Because it's sexier. And and this was from an American company, and the reason why they weren't going into the United States to promote this show was because the television networks who are carrying this programming feel that it is oversaturated with everything as it is, and overall the numbers are starting to decrease. So adding now a Dogman show, as popular as it probably would be, was not making sense to try and promote it, whereas Canada is such an untapped market for this type of homegrown production.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were going to be shooting a pilot for a show. A network contacted us, and I mean, we were in negotiation with them and everything, and just out of the blue, they canceled it. You know, and it's like, well, why did you want to cancel? I mean, why did you cancel it? And basically, you know, they sat there and said, and you know, they told us, you know, it's too scary. That's what they, you know, their people told them, it's too scary. It's too scary of a subject, you know, to bring to light. I mean, it came to, I mean, we were waiting for them to show up to start filming, and they never showed. You know, and it's just like, you know, what's going on here? And that was the thing. They said, listen, you know, they felt it was too scary of a show. They didn't want people to, you know, hurt themselves taking out the trash, running to throw the trash in, you know, the garbage can, you know, and hurt themselves because they just got done watching this show. You know, well, you know, that's what people want. You know, they don't want to sit there and watch some mountain monsters crap and things like that. They want to watch something that's going to scare them. Because they know these things are real, you know, and things. I just don't understand why, you know, their whole thinking about this is, you know, is just nonsense. You know, when it comes to this subject, I mean, you know, the biggest books in cryptozoology being sold today is on werewolves.
Mm-hmm. Eric has a quick question here for you, and he is asking, do you believe dogmen are solitary, or do they run in packs like other canines?
The majority of all the sightings, I would say probably 90 to 95% of the sightings that we are getting at the North American Dogman Project, they're solitary sightings. Okay. We've got a few that either has been 2 or more. We had a sighting that took place in Akron, Ohio. Okay. And the guy was 68-year-old hunter. I mean, he was, you know, a really good guy, you know, church-going type guy. And he was turkey hunting. He heard the turkeys. The turkeys just went completely quiet. He felt they maybe heard him. There was a small opening, you know, that he went into, and he said 5 of them came out on him immediately when he got into that clearing. Now, not one time did he say dogman or werewolves. He said dogs. These dogs were walking on 2 legs. And that's the way he described them. You know, he said only one showed aggression towards them. He said that they looked like a wolf, you know, German Shepherd looking. He said he was able to see genitalia on a few of them that didn't look like your typical dog genitalia. He said the hands, the front paws were more like human hands than they were like dog paws. He said the regular legs were just like dogs. They had tails. He said the one that showed aggression that seemed to be like the alpha was a female. You know, but that was like 5 of them. He said he had a gun in his hand. You know, when he pointed the weapon at them, they kind of backed off, you know, type thing. And then he was able to get away from them. So what he kind of felt was that, you know, he came across them at the same on the turkeys the same time they did, you know, and they were basically moving him out because that was their food. But like I said, at no time he never ever said werewolves or dogman. He didn't even know what the hell, you know, a dogman was, you know, and things. And his whole idea of what a werewolf was, being at that age, was Lon Chaney Jr., you know. So, but he just kept referring them as dogs. You know, that's one incident. And there's a guy on our team by the name of Dave that was down in, I think it was Tennessee also where this took place. He was going down the road at night with his wife. He had a truck, he had a trailer on the back. Something hit the trailer. He stopped. He goes out and looks, and there's a dog man standing right there behind the trailer, about 20 yards away, and he's able to see this thing. And there was one that kind of flanked him, was right there on the side of him, looking right at him on the side of the road there. So that was like 2 incidents there where there was, more than one. But like I said, the majority of the stuff that we're getting, is just been one sighting of one creature.
Have you ever been in the vicinity of one? Maybe you didn't see it, but you felt like it was watching you? And the reason why I ask that, Joedy, I want to explain why I ask that. There haven't been, as far as I know, any Dogman sightings in British Columbia, but there is word that they have been moving into this territory. And I have been around extraterrestrials. I have seen 5 of them. I've seen Bigfoot. I know what that feels like. I've been around bears, cougars. I know what that feeling is like. And my wife and I went into the wilderness because we stock up on firewood for the winter. And we went up on one of the local mountains. And my wife is quite empathic. And we went down this one cathedral of trees on either side along this logging road. And my wife was absolutely petrified. She's like, there is something here. She said it doesn't feel like a ghost. It's not Bigfoot. It's not alien. She goes, I don't know what it is, but we got to get out of here. And eventually we chopped down a tree, took the wood, got the heck out. Like, she was so paranoid about this, she wouldn't even let our little son, who's 3 years old, out of the truck. She just did not feel comfortable with that. And we continued down that road, and it was energetically something I had never felt before. And even I was getting goosebumps, like, this just is not comfortable here. Have you ever had that type of situation where you felt Dogman was around?
When I was in Germantown, there's this area in Germantown, Ohio, where a lot of the sightings have taken place. This is where we have found tracks. I found the remains of a cow. Adam Davies, who's one of the researchers on the team, who was investigating Germantown werewolf before we even, got connected with each other, found the remains of a cow. We found remains of dogs and, deers and things like that. And there's no predator in the state of Ohio that can take a cow down, and kill it and eat it. We have bear in Ohio, but most of them are, further towards the Pennsylvania, border. And this particular area, where all these sightings have taken place, we were out, and what was so odd about it was on the left side of the road, you did not hear anything. I mean, it was absolutely dead silence. But on the right side where the woods were, you heard crickets and everything. And that's odd. And I felt that there's something there. I felt that there's something watching us. And what was so odd about this, when you look at the road, the dirt road, all the animals, the deers, the raccoons, there was even this, the impression of a snake moving, there was even a bobcat that walked there. They were all on the right side of the road. I mean, they all were just on the right side, deer, everything. Nothing, no animal tracks whatsoever on the left side of the road where all the dead silence was, And that was a couple times up there. And what makes this even odder is that, the Jefferson Township Police Department just, right in the middle, in the woods, where all this stuff is taking place, opens up a police facility right there. I mean, it's just, they know what's going on, in that area, but it's really odd. I've been scared before, but this scared me. I mean, this is probably one of the times that I kind of wish I did have a gun, on me. But it's just a wicked feeling. And I definitely have had that before.
'Cause up here we have cougars, we have wild hogs, we have moose, elk, grizzly bears, black bears, badgers. There's a lot of crap that can kill you in our forests. A lot of animals that can kill you. And they're all looking for it. But you get a sense when there's animals around. You know what I'm saying? You get that sixth sense when you're being watched. It's the same if you've had a Bigfoot encounter. It's the same if you've had an extraterrestrial encounter. Or a paranormal encounter. Your body recognizes that energy. And both my wife and I, when we were talking about this, it was energy that we had never felt before. And I remember right when we were walking towards our truck, because she wouldn't let the little guy out, I said, honey, as much as weird as this sounds, I said, I don't know what Dogman feels like, but when I think of Dogman, my body is goosebumping like anything. And I knew the direction of where I thought it was, didn't see anything, but is it a lot like that, what you experienced?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, you knew it was something there. It was like it was there, because it was a heavily wooded area. It did have a fence up on that side of the road there, but, the grass was high enough, and, I mean, it could have been right there, and you would have never known it. And I even got a smell, a very nasty, fleshy smell, and that's the thing with Dogman. People describe like Bigfoot smell. It's a lot different than the Dogman smell. Dogman smell is more like a wet dog, but dead wet dog, and this is what people have told us what they've smelled, and we've even smelled it. In this particular area, Adam was out one day, during the day doing an investigation up there, and he found a pair of pants and a top that was completely ripped apart and bloody, bloody clothing. And this, right along the same area where we were, where we felt all this, heavy pressure on us and stuff and things. And, he notified the police department, and they, kind of shoved it off. And then he, goes back the following day. He says, well, I'm going to collect this clothing, and the clothing's gone, and you can see where he said when he picked the clothes off the ground, it kind of, had like an indentation in the ground there where it was laying. And he said you saw tire marks where it kind of like drove over it, and then things. So, a lot of odd stuff, in this particular area where, we're having a lot of things. But like I said, it's just, man, I understand what you're saying. It's just this feeling that you get. It's just like you're waiting for it to hit you. You're waiting for it to come out at you. It's that feeling, right, that you have where it's building up and building up, and you're just waiting for it to just grab you. That's the type of feeling that you get, when you're there. And I understand completely what you're saying you're feeling.
Got a question from Edie in regards to Dogman. What types of vocalizations have you heard from Dogman? Are they similar to Bigfoot sounds, or do they scream? Do they howl, whoop? What do you think?
I only heard one type of scream, okay, and things. I mean, I've heard howling sounds, and things, in the field. We have a couple of recordings that's on our webpage, and one of the screams is this really like echoing scream with a bark. Now, coyotes will make that sound, okay? They will make something similar to it. Now, we know in the Bigfoot field, I believe Bigfoot mimics animals when they communicate, okay? I truly believe that. Can Dogman mimic other animals? I think they can mimic a coyote. I think they can do that. But this one particular vocalization that we've got, there was a sighting that took place, a daytime sighting in a residential area next to an airport. This young couple was walking their dog, and they seen this large creature sitting on the road next to the fence, by the airport, and the dog wouldn't go any further. They thought it was a bear because the size of the animal, and but they saw a tail that was very bushy like a dog, and it heard them, and it looked over at them. They saw the snout, they saw the high pointed ears, and they said it just made this god awful scream at them, and they took off. So we investigated where they saw it at, got their eyewitness drawing, was up there Friday night, Saturday night, didn't get nothing, up there Sunday night, getting ready to leave, and that's when we got the scream. So we talked to the witnesses, say, okay, we're going to give you a series of, audios, tell us which one you heard. So, we played the different audios, and the one that they picked out that they heard is the one that we have on our website. And that's the one that, we know that coyotes do make that particular sound. But I've seen a video of a coyote making that sound, but it's a lot different from the one we got. But I'm not saying that this is definitely a dogman scream, but we're just going by what the witness said that they heard, and they said it was the exact vocalization that they heard. So who knows? So, but we have another vocalization on there that one of our other our investigators got, and we got another one that the media actually picked up, and we have the newspaper articles that go with that particular howl that they've got there in Germantown. So
I do have to ask, it's a funny question. If you're out, and this is from me, and I'm just being a smart ass here with this one, Joe, but when you're out looking for Dogman, be honest, how many tennis balls are you carrying?
Actually, I carry jerky with me and stuff. I do, and I'll tell you why. Because I was told by a guy from the U.S. Forestry Service I was talking to one time. He says, if you have food on you and a predator's chasing you, throw the food down. He'll go for that food first, and that gives you time to get away. So I figure if I carry jerky or something on me and something's chasing me, I'm going to throw that jerky down, hoping he goes for it better before me. So it's kind of like a tennis ball, I guess.
I just want to see if they would fetch it. I want a Dogman investigator to solve that one for me. Will they play fetch?
You know what? I'm going to do that from now on. I will carry a tennis ball, so if I ever get into that situation and I throw that tennis ball and they fetch it, I'm going to let you know.
I want to know. I want to know. It's a logical question, because if they have dog-like tendencies, they may do it.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I agree with you on that. I'm going to try that. I will try that.
I have heard stories about Dogman that people have shot at them and with high-powered rifles, and this animal just does not drop. It doesn't seem to be able to die. Have you ever looked into that?
I talked to a few people that have said that. Dave, on his sighting, when he saw the one down the road, and then he seen the one that came up on to the right of him, and he had a .357 on him at the time, and he discharged the weapon. He said he knows he hit the one, but the other one didn't move when he discharged his weapon. So it showed no fear. So, but the other one did move away. So he did believe he did hit the first one, that was off to his right. I talked to guys that had him in their sights and shot him. I talked to guys, who said that, they were afraid to shoot it because they felt if they didn't hit it right, they were going to come after him. I've even heard stories like that with Bigfoot, where people said they've shot it and he wouldn't fall. It's what people don't understand, when it comes to a weapon, it could be a 22, can take down something like that. It's shot placement is what it is. It's not the caliber of the weapon. And maybe it's just they hit it in the wrong part or something. Me personally, it's just I would just be more upset, that I just teed it off and things. It just makes the situation worse on me, But I don't know. I mean, it's just you hear stories like that, and maybe they thought that they hit it, and things. Because one thing from being in the military, you can think that you're on target, because your sights are right there at the bullseye, but it doesn't mean you're going to hit the target. So.
Well, do you think then that Dogman is just a Montauk type experiment that just went wrong, or do you think this is a creature that has been around for centuries, much like Bigfoot?
Well, here's the thing. I talked to Linda Godfrey about this, okay? And, Linda, believes it's something that, has always been around. And I kind of agree with her there. It's something that's always been around. It's a flesh and blood creature. Now, there are some people that believe that Dogman may not be canine. It could be something more like a Dinopithecus, if you're familiar with that. The Dinopithecus was a baboon, that type creature that lived prehistoric times. It stood probably about 1.5 meters, which is probably about 5 feet, and that this creature kind of evolved and to what we think of Dogman, because the characteristics are the same. The tracks, if you ever look at a baboon, track, it's very similar, they have like what you call a, what's that? What the heck do they call that? A break within their foot, I can't think what the actual, term is actually called, mid-tarsal break in the foot. And their rear paw, have the 4 toes that are similar to a canine, but on the other side of the mid-tarsal break is when you have like the heel and the actual thumb part of the toe. In some cases, on the tracks you'll just see the 4 toes, and some you'll see the full 5. But some people, researchers are thinking that maybe that, when all the land masses were together, that some of these creatures were, these animals were able to make it to North and, South America, and this is what Dogman could be, it makes sense a little bit. I'm still looking into that, doing research on it. But this, like I said, this was, if you think of your typical baboon, but imagine this thing, being 5 feet. That's a massive, massive animal, and like I said, the characteristics are pretty much the same, as a Dogman. And, but, is this thing like a wolf? Does it have human characteristics to it, human DNA to it? Does it have primate DNA to it? We don't know, but it's just, it's one of these things that's just, it's still a mystery to what it is, because it's just still so new, to the research. We haven't got to that point. We can talk about Bigfoot. We can give our opinion what we think Bigfoot is. But on this, it's just, we just don't know yet.
What kind of evidence have we found with this creature?
Only evidence that we really have are tracks right now. There's photographic evidence. We have some photos on our webpage that witnesses have sent us, that they've caught on, like their cell phone and things like that. That's really about it in human testimony. But, in the field of cryptozoology and ufology and, ghosts and things like that, the paranormal, I mean, human testimony doesn't really mean anything, honestly. It doesn't. You can't walk into a courtroom, and say, you seen Bigfoot or Dogman, they're probably going to lock you up for 72 hours, but, human testimony is only really good if, you're convicting someone, to prison or something like that. It's okay to say, I saw you walk out of the convenience store running, or seen you run out of the convenience store that just got robbed. Doesn't mean that you did it, but I saw you do it, and that's enough to convict you. But, you and I couldn't stand in a courtroom, and say, we saw Bigfoot or Dogman and stuff. I mean, it's not the same thing, So it's just, it's just how things are.
So what is your theory then in regards to why Dogman seems to be a much more aggressive creature than its counterpart Bigfoot?
I think because it's an apex predator. I mean, it's like a wolf. It's like a dog. It's built to do that. I don't think Bigfoot is built, to be a predator. I could be wrong, okay, but Dogman's different. He's built to be a predator. That's his thing. That's what makes him what he is. Is it the canine that's in him? The characteristics of the dog, that makes him that way, or is it the characteristics of the human that's in there? And the reason why I say that is, I don't believe in transformation or anything like that. I really don't. But, because of the stature of the creature, for some reason, I just think they have to be some type of human DNA or something in that, because, it's a problem-solving animal. If you hear some of these stories where these things were able to turn doorknobs to get in, try to get in people's house, try to, lift the, car handle to get into a car, these are problem-solving animals, so that's why I think they have some type of intelligence, to them. And maybe they have some type of human DNA in them that gives them that, I don't know. Like I said, it's still a new subject, even though it's been there for a while, but it's just now being looked at, and it just has so many questions, to it. And it's just really hard to sit there and pinpoint one theory on this. And you can talk to a lot of the different researchers, and they'll tell you the same thing. It's just you just can't pin one theory onto this.
Edie has a question. Let's talk about that intelligence. Do we sit there and compare it to the intelligence of Bigfoot, or do we compare it more to a human?
Here, this is Joedy Cook's opinion, and Joedy Cook's opinion only. Okay. I think Bigfoot has intelligence, okay? I do, okay? But I think he has more common sense than intelligence, okay? Dogman, I think, is intelligent, okay? And I think he has common sense, okay? We know people who has both, and we know people who just have one or the other, Me, I'd rather have common sense than intelligence. Because common sense keeps you alive, and that's the thing about Bigfoot. He stays alive. He stays hidden because he's got common sense. He knows not to run out in the middle of the traffic. He knows, when he sees a human, not to, encounter him. That's just common sense stuff. But he's intelligent to communicate with each other. He's intelligent to, if he's able to mimic, other animals to, warn everybody else, the rest of, the group that there's humans around or a predator or something. Dogman, I think he's just, he's highly intelligent animal. He's a hunter. He would have to be intelligent in order to survive, and to use the skills that, they do. Same thing, with, wolves. I imagine, that's what keeps the group together. That's what keeps the, pack together is, the intelligence and, the guidance of, the lead, the alpha in the group and things. So, but like I said, I just, it's hard saying. It really hard saying. If I had to, like I said, if I had to say, intelligence on one or common sense on the other, I would say common sense on Bigfoot and intelligence on Dogman.
Do you see this creature spreading around North America, much like we have Bigfoot sightings in pretty much every corner of the continent and around the world, or do you see it just still focused on the central part of the Midwest, going into Canada a little bit? Because I know there has been sightings, official sightings reported in Alberta.
Right. I say within the last 10 years, it went from the United States and say United States and Canada, it went from one particular area, which I would say would be from the northeastern part of the country, and the continent going over to like Minnesota, going down as far as Kentucky or maybe Tennessee. That's where I think a lot of the sightings originated from. You had like small isolated sightings in different parts of the country, but now it's getting to the point where you're just getting sightings all over the United States. Same thing in Canada. Majority of all the Canada were, sightings in Canada were on the, east side of the country, and then now you're starting to get them, on the, the western side of the country. Same thing with Europe. Sightings have always been there, in France and Eastern Europe and things like that. If you go back and you look at, Greek mythology and Viking, and Egyptian, they've always been there, and they talk about them being in there. So we know that the influence has always been there. But like I said, it's getting to the point where it's, it's getting all over, and is it because there are more and more sightings? I don't think it's because it's more and more sightings, because I think people are starting to open up more about their sightings that they've had, even though if they're newer sightings or if they're older sightings, it's getting opened up. People are starting to talk about it. And then when they start to talk about it, then you start getting all these different areas, where you would think there were never any sightings at. And that's what's kind of going on right now. But it's growing. It really is. Compared to a year ago, I mean, it's growing.
Do you think they're following a food source, maybe where deer are prevalent or moose or elk, or do you think that they are just spreading their wings because maybe the battle between the apex predators of Dogman, Bigfoot, grizzly bears, mountain lions is just getting too thick?
Well, I talked to a game warden about this, okay? And this is what he told me, okay? Most predators, okay, don't leave the area unless the food source or the water source is gone or the environment changes, okay? Generally, they'll stay in the same area if the food source and everything's there. If you take Africa, where you have all these different animals that migrate, well, why do they migrate? Because they migrate because the environment changes when it comes from, the rainy season to the dry season. And, the flooding, they know the flooding will kill you. They know the flooding takes, the food away. Same thing when the dry season comes, it takes the food away, and so forth. So they migrate to a different area, and I think when it comes to Dogman and Bigfoot, I think they pretty well stay within that same area. unless, like I said, if you have another dogman in the area and you're competing for food, well, the dominant one's going to be able to kind of stay because, he's the stronger one. So he'll stay and the weaker ones will move on, and things. It's the same thing, I think with humans. Humans very well stay within, 10 to 50 miles of where they've grown up, where they were born. They normally don't leave unless the environment changes, or, they get a job or financial purposes or something like that. You pretty well, stay where you're at and things. So I think that's how it is with them. I think they'll pretty well stay. And then that's what we see, like, Wisconsin, Michigan, here in Ohio, Kentucky, they're pretty well staying in the same area where they've had sightings for the last 50 plus years, and there's nothing moving them out. It's just this sightings are expanding in those states. So that means either this thing's moving or there's more than one. And the most likely conclusion is that there's more than one.
What's your ideal then on a breeding population? Because in order to survive, there has to be one.
No, they definitely have to be one. Bigfoot. I would say that breeding population is very high. With the dogman, I don't think it's as high as Bigfoot is, and you have to take in consideration, say like with Bigfoot, if he's has human DNA or human within him, what's the mortality rate of the babies? Are they able, do Bigfoot get, diseases like we do? Do they get distempered? Do they get rabies? Are they immune to that stuff? And things, I think Jane Goodall was talking about, like when they go out to visit the gorillas and stuff, they have to get their temperatures taken and make sure that they're not sick so the gorillas don't get, sick from the humans. So obviously, I imagine the gorillas are able to pick up human diseases. Are these things able to pick up human diseases? And things. And you sit there and think about, do they get parvo? Do they get distempered? Type things like that. Are they immune to a lot of this stuff? And thing. I think part of the population is, that the strong survive and the weak ones don't, So, but I think the Bigfoot, population is thriving much stronger than dogman is.
Would you consider it an endangered species?
Oh yeah, I think both of them are endangered species. I would really love, to see, the government come out and say, yes, these things exist and they're, protected under law. I would love to see that, but I can see Bigfoot. I can see it happening to Bigfoot before I would ever see it happen to dogman, honestly, because I've talked to law enforcement that will swear that this thing exists, that they have told me that they've been on, scenes where this thing has created havoc, and they know it. They know this is a problem animal. I even talked to one Kentucky State Trooper that said this thing has taken human life, and he has sworn that this thing has done it. So you don't hear this about this stuff from law enforcement when it talks about Bigfoot. That this is a problem child. This thing has taken human life. You don't hear about stories like that from them. Police have a code name for Bigfoot. They call it Black Cow. And the code name for Dogman is Black Dog. And I've heard this from numerous amounts of law enforcement from across the country and from DNRs and from the U.S. Forestry Service. Guys that, I'm in contact with has used these terms, so they all know that, when they're communicating with one another, when this term comes up, this is what it's called. So
it's very interesting indeed, and one day, hopefully, we get
definitely
to find out. We've got about 3.5 minutes left with you. This show has absolutely flown by, Joedy. I told you it would.
Yes.
It's ridiculous at times.
I apologize for the people if I wasn't up to par. I ripped my rotator cuff in my arm, and I'm going to have surgery here in a day or two, and I had to stop off my pain meds so I could do this show. So I was kind of hard concentrating with this rip going on, and so I'm in a lot of pain and stuff. So I hope everybody bared with me there.
Oh, I think you've been absolutely fantastic. I would love it if you took a couple of minutes to explain the books that you've written and what projects you have up next for you.
I did a few books on Bigfoot. I did a few on Dogman. There you can find them on Amazon.com. Just go ahead and type my name in, Joedy Cook, and things. I did this one book called Dogman, which I ended up sending in the wrong PDF file, which was an unfinished PDF file for the book, and they ended up publishing it after I realized that I sent the wrong one in. So I had to pull that one off. So you're not going to find that one out there because there was a lot of spelling errors and stuff in there because I didn't get a chance to clean it up and stuff and do a full check on the book. I sent the wrong PDF file in by accident. But I got a new one out called Werewolves. It's a really good book. Got a lot of really good feedback on it. It's true stories from witnesses telling their encounters that they had with Dogman. I have a new book out on Bigfoot called Grassman, which is a really good book. I'm working on a new one now called The Germantown Werewolf, with Adam Davies, and that book will probably be out in about a month. And we're working on a DVD project on the Germantown Werewolf also, which hoping that will be done within a month. So that will be out there too. We have a website called it's www.thenorthamericandogmanproject.com. We got some really good information on there. We got newspaper articles. We've got encounters, on there. We have a lot of photographs and things. We have the audio on there. People can go check that out. You can join, become a member, the team. You can send us a question. We have a message board on there. If you have a question or something like that, go ahead, write it on there. We'll get back with you and answer your question. Like I said, if you have any questions, contact us. We have a Facebook page also, North American Dogman Project Facebook page. You can contact us on there also.
That's awesome, my friend. And you know what? I would love to hang out with you again sometime in 2017, man. That was great.
Anytime, yeah.
I would like, what I would like to do is I'd actually like to get you, Edie Kaito, Mike Johnson, and maybe do a panel of Bigfoot Dogman, sometime in the summer. Great. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. It would. And I did that once before on another show. We did a panel and, got a lot of really good feedback on it, and the variety of different people is what makes it, and awesome group of people right there that you just mentioned, and let's do it because it's fun. It's fun.
Absolutely, my friend. You hold on. I got to wrap this show up here, and I'll talk to you in just a second. If you're listening on the Spaced Out Radio side, you are hearing Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. Bumblefoot is our resident guitar god. He takes us in and brings us out of every show right here on the mighty SOR. We love having all of you with us. Thank you for your participation in the chat rooms, on Twitter. Tomorrow night on the show, Wolfman Mike is coming in. We're talking missing time, ghosts, UFOs, aliens. And I know he's going to bring up the damn gnomes, and you know I hate the gnomes, but he's just that guy. He's going to do it. 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. Want to thank you all for tuning in. Remember, if you want to catch this show and others, you can go to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune it in on TuneIn. And, of course, if you have an iTunes account, you can download them at iTunes as well. Remember, follow me on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Give our hashtag a chance as well. Hashtag Spaced Out Radio. And do me a favor, the most important question I have for you, if you like what we're doing, tell a friend. We're trying to get to this next level in 2017, and we need to do it with your help. Let's rock and roll on this. We'll talk to you in exactly 21 hours from now. Wolfman Mike will be my guest. Thank you so much to Joedy Cook. Go to Amazon. Check out his books. This is a smart dude. Let's do this again. Talk to you tomorrow, 21 hours from now. See you later.